Welcome to Charts Today Europe. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 22nd of October, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the markets globally. The big story is Asia's up, and China specifically up nearly 4%, in fact, up over 4% now. So, looking strong this morning, and that's the first time we've seen really the Chinese market showing, giving a very strong showing. So, looking at the currencies first, the dollar is relatively flat. We are seeing a little bit of a fall away this morning, but still holding its bullish position. And the euro, looking at the euro, is actually weak against the dollar, but just now starting to look a bit stronger coming through the cloud, but medium term still weak, but up quite strongly just now. Looking at dollar against the yen, we see here this is looking strong and it tends to be a lead indicator for the dollar. So if the dollar yen's making new highs, that's pretty bullish for the dollar all around, and bullish on all three time frames there. Against sterling climbing a little bit this morning against that weaker dollar, and the euro against the euro sterling falling away, so looking weaker there. So we're just still bearish against the Swiss franc. Fairly flat, and against the Australian dollar, we're seeing here sterling actually still looking relatively weak short term. Bitcoin, little changed over the last few months now. Bitcoin really not performing. We saw the US markets last week struggling in the end. The S&P 500 index closing down on the week, and the Nasdaq 100 down as well. Looking at the Dow, we're seeing here this morning that Dow Jones just was actually holding its support for the week, but generally speaking, US markets looking worrying. And the Russell 2000, the broader based index of 2,000 US stocks, looking worrying as well. Looking at the futures this morning, the S&P future up 1/3%, the Nasdaq up 0.6% does suggest the U.S. markets will open higher. We're seeing also this morning the FTSE future was up and the DAX index up over 1%. But now looking at the cash markets, the FTSE is up 0.4% this morning, so reasonably good opening, and the mid caps up 0.2%. So we are just seeing a better performance there, but still looking very bearish on these charts. The DAX up 0.7%, but again, bearish on all three time frames. So this is really a counter trend move now. And the CAC Quarant also looking bearish. Strongest looking market in Europe, probably actually just holding its long term trend. But if the UK and Germany keep falling, then that's going to fall as well. In Tokyo, we're seeing a small fall there, a rise there, and in the Hang Seng Hong Kong market up over 2%, and the Chinese market, as we mentioned, up over 4%, but still bearish on all three time frames, so it doesn't change anything from a chart perspective. The Indian market up 0.5%, and the Aussie market down 0.5%. Brent crude we're seeing here is actually up 0.6% this morning, looking a little bit stronger, but still bearish below the cloud, as is the WTI contract. Gold actually looking a little bit stronger at 12.27, fairly flat, but good upside targets holding on to its strength. And looking at US 10-year yields, the major thing driving the US market is sitting at 3.2%, so still looking pretty strong there. German bond prices lower, Italian bonds downgraded on Moody's this morning, so quite interesting there. Taking a quick, that data was coming from Metastock or Thomson Reuters Icon. Here we're looking at the FTSE. So this data coming in, all this data coming in from Yahoo on this screen. So just looking at those world indices, we're seeing here the Asian performance pretty strong. Europe, we're seeing the DAX, the Stoxx 600 up 0.6%, the DAX up 0.93%, the CAC Quarant up 1%. So pretty strong showing all round. Just taking a quick look at the Nasdaq, which has been driving a lot of these changes. We saw stocks like Activision Blizzard down very sharply last week, moving into bearish territory. We're seeing a lot of that on some of these US stocks now. Amazon just holding its bull trend, outperforming the market some 44% still this year. Google actually still looking pretty bearish on that medium-term chart. Apple, of course, the biggest company in the US, actually holding its trend quite strongly. So that is propping up things at the moment. And Facebook looking bearish in the medium term still. And we do have these downside targets for Facebook, some 30% lower. So still a big worry there. And if we look at some of the other stocks like Tesla, that's been in the news a lot lately. 250 is still a critical level on Tesla. Netflix, down 4% on Friday, so still looking worried on that medium-term chart. A lot of performance to undo there, 60% up on the Dow this year. Microsoft holding its bull trend quite nicely, but just starting to flatten in performance as we see in the last few months. Remembering all this data coming from Yahoo Finance. So taking a look at the FTSE this morning, if we look at the best performers, Standard Life is up some 16% this morning, so really significant moves there. Um, Looking at Fresno up 4%, Rightmove up 3%, so really seeing some quite strong moves there as well. Burberry up 2.6%. EasyJet was down quite substantially on Friday. We're seeing this morning actually looking quite a lot better, up 2.6% this morning, but we are in a very bearish trend here on EasyJet. Downside further of some 3.6%, but that's pretty much where we were on Friday, so we've reached that downside target. Seeing these updates now coming in from Yahoo, the market opening. Remembering this data is 20 minutes delayed on Yahoo. Looking at the fallers, we've got GVC Holdings, Shire, and Paddy Power. So we do have some fallers this morning. Quite a lot of these stocks bearish below the cloud. Here we see Paddy Power's underperformed the Dow Jones Index by 35% this year. So we are just seeing still some stocks selling off. Even the big giants like Glaxo down 0.5%. So not going with the market rise this morning. BP much the same, falling, and Shell. So we're seeing oil stocks down. And in terms of stocks up, we're seeing Lloyd's up 1.5%. Quite a lot in the banking sector's higher, and looks like also BHP and Anglo American. So we're seeing commodities stocks and banking stocks higher in the UK this morning. Looking at the mid caps, this is the FTSE 250. Again, all this data coming from Yahoo. We see here if we do the percentage change, we've got quite a lot of stocks. CAS Minerals up 3%. But most of the stocks up. Interestingly, here we see the fallers and the risers. So it still seems to be commodity stocks in the UK that are up, and energy stocks. We're seeing again oil, energy down. Wood Group, quite a few in those leaders. Can Energy down some 2% this morning. So quite a mixed picture. Looking quickly over to Europe, this is the Euro Stock 600 again coming from Yahoo Finance, and looking here, we've got Fiat up 6% this morning, so we are seeing some quite big performances there. Some of these Italian stocks looking better. Fresno, the UK stock, up 5%. And taking a look at the fallers in Europe just to see if any big ones. We've got Philips down 5%. We are seeing some pretty big falls still. Convatec Group really has performed very badly over the last few weeks. Anyway, that's it for today. Keep an eye on those prices during the day, and watch out for our other reports as the day progresses. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.